Have you sewn up yard after yard of thread into your quilts but are still confused about things like thread weight and which needle to use? Well, this show is for you. Marje Myers of That Thread Shop is here today to answer all these questions once and for all on the Quilters Tea. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Quilters Tea. I'm Jody Davis. Today's show is all about thread, and Marje Myers is here to clear up some mysteries for us.
Thank you for having me, Jody, and I'm so glad to be able to be here because, you know what? Thread was a real mystery to me, too. It is so darn confusing. And I have a confession. Not all the time did my blocks turn out to be the size they were supposed to be.
Oh, really? Why?
Well, I was using the wrong threads. With my Aurifil 50 weight, it is ideal for all kinds of sewing, quilting, and embroidering. The 50 weight is your all-purpose sewing thread, and the wonderful thing about our Aurifil thread that is made in Milan, Italy, it's made of the highest grade of Egyptian cotton. It's clean, it's smooth, it's even, it's consistent, and if you run your fingers across that, you're going to happen to notice that it is
like this.
Lump-free.
It is, it's very smooth.
Yes. You know what I call those lumps? Thread cellulite.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Needs to go on a diet.
It does, or turn itself into Aurifil.
Yeah, right. Better yet.
When you piece, you never want to piece with a thread any thicker than an individual strand of the fibers that your fabric is created from.
Oh, that makes sense.
Doesn't it? You know, when you match that thread, and of course I can't get a little piece off, and if you hold up a piece to an individual strand, you'll see that it's slightly finer. The reason that it'll make your piecing much more accurate is because it's going to bury itself in that seam.
It won't distort the fibers in the fabric.
Absolutely.
Oh, I never thought of that, but it makes perfect sense.
When the block gets more complicated, and the more pieces you put on the block, the smaller and smaller that block would get. I would take so much time in my cutting and in my piecing, and I was even measuring every single seam. But when I did that final press, my blocks were always too small. And that drove me crazy because the threads that we're used to using are much too thick. With the 50 weight on the orange plastic spool, it's going to bury itself in that seam, and when you do that final press, it's going to be perfect.
Who'd have thunk?
It makes a big difference. Over here, I have a sample with 4 different weights. The rule of thumb is the lower the number, the thicker the thread.
Okay, the lower the number, the thicker the thread.
Right.
I always get confused.
Right. And you know what's so confusing, though, is the fact that there is no standardization in the thread industry.
Oh.
Right. Brand X and brand Y can call themselves a 50 weight, but if you hold them next to each other, they're not going to be anywhere near the same.
Oh, okay. So you have to get to know each brand of thread.
Absolutely. You need to feel that thread and look at it and decide what's going to be the right thread for the right project.
Stitch a sample.
Exactly. And think about it. When you're quilting, especially if you're doing moderate to light quilting, you may want to choose a thicker thread. Now in this case here, this top square is our 50 weight, along with the 4 triangles. The second square is the 40 weight, so that's a little bit thicker.
Yep, I can see the difference.
Yes, and the triangles above is also quilted in the 40 weight. So you can see a big difference between where it's monochromatic and where it's high contrast. A lot of people get real nervous and say, oh, but I don't want to see my stitches. And I just tell them, get over it. The stitch police aren't going to come and arrest you if one stitch is a little bit bigger than the next. The third square is the 28 weight, which is my favorite for quilting.
I was going to say that's my favorite too.
But if you want a big, beautiful stitch and something that's going to show up, especially on flannels, then you can use the 12 weight, and that's also in the 2 triangles above.
I can see how that'd be nice in flannel. It would need that heavier weight.
Mm-hmm. Baby quilts. A lot of people enjoy using
yes.
12 weight for baby quilts.
Mm-hmm.
This sample goes to show some of the versatility of the Aurifil cotton Magos. This is a 50 weight piece of lace that I made.
Oh, I thought it was just lace, but you stitched it?
I did on my embroidery machine.
I thought it was an old piece of lace.
No, it's it's not. It's our 50 weight and sewn on tulle.
Great.
I love something that can be used for multiple applications. I hate to have spent a lot of money on fabric or spool of thread and then only use it for one specific application.
And then that spool of thread sits around for years.
Absolutely. Getting dusty and getting old. Here is a sample where, and I'm not a hand applicator. This is actually my second attempt at hand applique. But I used our 50 weight for this as well. And it buries itself so beautifully. Kind of the same premise as in the piecing. And it's just so smooth and even that it just slides right through that fabric. Doesn't knot, doesn't tangle. It's just wonderful.
And when you appliqued this, did you match the threads to the fabrics?
Yes, I did. I match my colors because I'm really not a very good applicator.
Oh, you don't want them to show?
No, I don't. But we have all these beautiful colors, and we have these collections specifically made for the hand applicators.
Oh.
There are 12 collections with 12 spools each, and that there are no duplicate colors in any of the collections.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, don't you hate it when you buy a collection and then you look at it and the ugliest color that you'll never use.
You have 2 of.
Exactly. So I make very special time and effort to make sure that none of the collections have any duplicate colors.
Well, they look like candy.
I call it eye candy.
Yeah.
The next weight I want to talk about is our 40 weight.
Okay.
And that's on a green plastic spool.
Oh, that makes it easy to recognize.
Right. All the different weights are on different color spools. Over here is a sample of the 40 weight. I used decorative stitches from my sewing machine to create this table runner.
It's very pretty.
Isn't that great? It's just another application that you can use one of our threads for.
And then this one?
This next quilt has a lot of different applications. I used the 50 weight to do hand applique, and then with my embroidery machine, I used the 40 weight to do the little embellishments on the quilt, and then I used the 40 weight also to do the grid quilting.
So do 2 different weights of thread in here.
No, one. Well, yes,
The
you're
40
right.
and
The
the
40 and the 50 for applique.
Santa!
Santa. We have to remember the holidays besides Easter. Over here again, I use the 40 weight for machine embroidery and
isn't that
applique
nice?
that on there to give a little dimension as well as the wreath down here. And then I machine quilted it with the 40 weight.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Oh, that's cute.
Well, Aurifil is also wonderful for handwork. And I love doing hand embroidery. And like most quilters, I have my UFOs, and this is one of them. But you know what? I always kind of rationalize and say it serves its purpose.
That's right. Here we are illustrating a point.